I'll go to Laredo for a class, for example, and I'll stop someplace, pull out my phone and see what kind of properties are available around us, just to see what the market's doing in that area as we travel. On the mobile version, when we're looking at it, on the top left where the sprocket is, that's your profile. And we want to cover that first, right? So on the profile side of this, this is one of the things, and for some of you, this may or may not work, and I understand that as well, right? If you have anything to add to it, please jump in. But where it has the welcome guide, that's just your instructions on how to use things, right? And we don't need that. So you go to your profile. Your profile should have everything in there. And like I told you, this is a set of this is RPR just for the class. So I don't have everything in here that's supposed to be in here. But you should have all your information in here. Where it says share my contact information, several years ago, I stopped carrying business cards. And the reason for that is if I run into somebody like at HEB or something of that nature, I will actually I'll ask them for their information. I'll click on share my contact information and I'll share it to them this way so that they have my phone number, email, the brokerage, they have everything all in once. I just share that contact information with them straight from there. And I know there's other ways to do that, but this is just one of the tools, one of the ways that me personally, I use RPR on a regular basis. Questions? User settings. These are your settings. How do you want it set up? So for example, I have mine set for nearby. So any property that comes up nearby, just like I was talking about Laredo, for example, if I go to Laredo or even San Antonio, I'll actually pull up the properties in the nearby area. I have this set it at a ½ mile, but if I'm wanting to look at something else, I have that option, right? You can change that at any time you want to. And then what is it? Residential. You know, residential sold, commercial. What is it you're looking for? And again, you decide what you're going to do with that. Your homepage options, you have those in there, right, that you can work from. These are your basic user settings. Basic user settings. Questions? Notifications. This is a part that I actually love because our MLS that we currently have does not have notifications. So if a buyer says, I like that property, but it's $20,000 more than I want to pay, I don't have a way in MLS to set that up where I get notified if that price is reduced. There's not a way in MLS for us to do that. So I do it, when that happens, I do it on RPR. I'll go in and save that property for that individual, right? And if a price change happens, I get notified because I have price change on my phone. And what will happen is I'll get an email saying that this listing, the price on this listing has changed. You get it. You decide how you want to get those notifications, and set it up that way. But that works really well because then I can also forward that email to the client. And then you also have other things on there besides just the price change. But values, I work for an investor family. I used to have the values on so that if anything changed on any of the saved properties, I'd be notified, but I turn that off because we have a long-term relationship. If there's questions about it, about every 6 months, I go in and pull all their properties up to see where the value is on RPR for them to begin with. I help, over the years, I helped their dad buy properties. And when he passed away a few years ago, he owned 66 properties that he sold owner finance. And now the kids have them. So we have to keep an eye on the value and what's going on in the market and all that good stuff. Because sometimes they get them back just like a bank does. So we've covered those items. You have other items that are on here on the phone that you could possibly use. At the very bottom, if you have questions about RPR, you can reach out to RPR 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and usually get a pretty good answer. I say usually because I have called them at 2 o'clock in the morning, sober even. I've called them at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the individual, I was asking brokerage questions, and the individual told me to call back during the day because that's when those texts are in. Just the basic how to run RPR folks are in late at night like that. Any questions on that one? Anybody? No. All right. So, and again, you have the 3 screens. So you have, this one is set as my home screen. I mentioned that earlier. You also have the market information. And this is one of the things, a lot of times if I'm out driving around, and this is what I teach the new agents to use as well. If I'm out driving around the area and I see a for sale by owner, I can stop and talk to them a little bit about what's going on in the market, right? Obviously, I want to try to get the listing, et cetera, but I can talk to them about what's going on in the market because I have that information right on my phone. And it's not like I'm pulling it from my head, because I can actually pull this out and look at it and say, look, you can see right here, here's what's happening in our area, right? Those kind of things. By the way, there was a post from NAR this morning. Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington was one of the top 10 areas in the United States for sales during COVID. And so they're actually predicting a great 2021 for them as well. This page is for searches, live searches. Do any of you use this to do a search on this page? Anyone? No. All right. So you can do your listings, you can market activity, you can pull all these different things. You can pull all these different things from this if you wanted to. And one of the things I wanted to show you on here is the keyword search. How does that work? Anyone? Keyword. So what happens is if I type in, say, Harlingen, for example, because that's actually where I'm at. And say I type in keyword pool. So what I'm asking it to do is to search all the properties that are on the market in the Harlingen area that have the word pool in it. And that's what it's going to do. It's going to pull up all the properties in the area that have the word pool in the agent comments or public remarks or listed in MLS. So that's the keyword search. I use that. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't see how you got to the keyword.
Okay, not a problem. So when you're on the search screen, that's this screen.
Okay.
It has keyword search right there in the middle.
Oh, I see.
The middle. You always have to plug in. You can plug in a zip code, city, or an actual address if you want. I use city a lot of times because we're fairly small. So if I run into somebody at HEB and they say, yeah, I'm looking for a house maybe about 6 months from now, one that has and that's why I use pool, one that has a pool, I can plug that in and just pull it up and say, look, there's this many properties available right now that say they have a pool or say something about a pool, but let me do some more research for you, right? So for example, one of them I pulled up the other day using that same example was the agent had put in remarks that the backyard was large enough for a pool. So it pulled that one up. It doesn't have one right now, but you could have one, right? And it gives you a chance to have that conversation. Terry, do you have a question? Okay. All right. Anybody else questions?
So if you were to put horse in there for the keyword, like any properties within your search perimeter, like Canyon Lake, whatever, it's going to bring up any property that allows a horse, even if it has a home on it or not.
Okay, so it's going to look for properties where that word has been used in the comments.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. I'm trying to do it as we go on my phone. So that
yes, ma'am. Yeah, again, it's neat because just like that, sometimes you might have somebody that does that and you can plug it in, plug in the zip code or the city and see what comes up. And you will generally have some, but then you have to go through them. But when they come up, just like that one, for example, let me just touch base on that one again. Let's see.
So if I was down in Corpus Christi, let's say, I couldn't search because their MLS is not my MLS.
Yes, you can.
Oh, I can. Or if I go to Harlingen, I can look at properties there.
So what area are you in, Connie?
I'm in Central Texas MLS, so New Braunfels,
What's the zip code up there?
Spring Branch,
What's your zip code?
78133.
Just as an example, let's see if this works this way. So you always want to click on add and then you click on the search. So there's properties that have the word pool in the comments section someplace.
Oh, so it's picking up stuff in California and Kansas.
Well, it's based on, that's based on the zip code.
Oh, I see.
And you can actually, if you put in the city, it usually works a little better. What was the city for you?
It was Canyon Lake.
I think it was Sarah. I think I saw a double Sarah on that one.
See what that does.
So is the criteria pulling up from the comments,
Right.
comments
Yes, ma'am.
section only, not the criteria from the listing?
My understanding is it can pull from both, but
Okay.
generally speaking, it's pulling from the comments. And most MLSs have that set up where you can do a keyword search. Like I'm the MLS chair, so we'll do a search once in a while for, like right now, a big concern is fair housing and et cetera. So I went into MLS and I typed in family. How many properties come up saying family in the comments, right? Or kids. I did one with that, had none, which was good. Family came up several times, but that's a keyword search, and it's the same thing on your phone as it is in your MLS.
Can you tell us what the difference is in the colors and the in and all that?
Right.
So
Yes, ma'am.
sold and
There's actually, when we go to the map, there's actually a code. It's just like the one on your desktop. So the one with the light blue with an N means it's a new listing,
Okay.
and then dark blue is an active listing, has a sell pending, and then the building is usually your apartments and stuff. Then down at the bottom of this, so you did a keyword search and pulled these up. One of the things I was wanting to share with you on this, on the bottom, you have sort and filter. So you can sort these out. If I click on sort, I can sort these out this way as well. So now I have those that say that, that have that keyword in it, but I can sort them out by days on RPR or recently updated, things like that, right? So it'll make those changes. That's on sort, and I can also filter them. So the filter works just like your search in MLS. What type of property are you looking for? How many bedrooms and baths? You know, you can actually break that down. Your price ranges. It's just like a regular search, like you have on your MLS. So we did out a few of those. And then at the bottom as well, where it has reports, you can generate a report from here, just like you can on your desktop. And so that specific one would be considered a market report because that's where we were at, right? We're looking at the keywords for the market, et cetera. So, but you can choose others that are there. If I go with the market report, I'm sorry. And how do you want it delivered? You want it downloaded or emailed? So you can, if we've used this with for sale by owners, where we send them a real quick, here's what the market's going on. Here's what the market says is going on in your area. I just click over to email. I put in their email, and I can do this right there on their front porch, right? So not only am I providing them information, I'm showing them that I'm somewhat tech savvy and can get them that information pretty quick like. And
Mac?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question. So as you know, we're looking at all this on like map view. Is there any way to look at it a list view once we start doing the filters?
Yes. Let me take this back. We'll go to that. So right at the very top, you see where it says list.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And that takes us over to this one,
Perfect. Thank you.
right? And so again, even here, we can do the same thing. So we can click on the report and send the report out. Bless you. Send the report out, whichever we need to do. And this brings us to another area in this presentation today as well. When we have a property up here like this, these properties have all kinds of information that we can use. So I'm going to click on some of this. The very first thing, take a look at that first one right there. Love to sell that house. It's telling you that there's 40 pictures there, which is awesome. I looked at one of these the other day and there were only 3 pictures on the property. And then the agent wonders why it hadn't sold. And on this layout, that bottom right hand corner photo, you have the 4 blocks. That's what you have on the screen. So if I want to change that to a single photo, I can do that. And then I can turn my phone sideways and we can look at it that way as well, right? And you can just scroll through all 40 photos if that's what you wanted to do. If I wanted to go to the overhead, that's the airplane view. So you can actually see it that way as well, right? So we clicked on the property, went to the list view, and we clicked on the property, a specific property. In this property, we have all the same information that we would have on our desk view. So the RVM details, you guys know that there's a difference between AVM and RVM, right? AVM is automated. It's like a, for lack of better terms, it's like a Zillow, right? It's the computers are grabbing all this information saying, here's what we think the property is worth. The computers don't understand, and please, if you're one of them, don't take this the wrong way, but the computers don't understand when I open the front door, it smells like cat urine inside, right? The computer doesn't get that. So RVM is what, like this one has an RVM of 1.1. RVM is the realtor value model. So that's the automated plus your MLS tied into it. And I can see just about everything I need to see here that I can see on the desktop version. So I can scroll down. There's the listing agent. If I need to contact them, I can do that. You have the description there for them.
So if you wanted to change it from the RVM to the, what was the other
AVM?
one?
AVM.
Yeah, how do you do that?
You can't. The system does that for you.
Okay.
So if the property's never been on the market before, it's going to be an AVM. If it's never been on the market before.
Oh, I see.
If as we scroll down, you have the description, which I'm going to show you in the next section. We'll work on the description a little bit as well, because there's things you can do with that. And we have the map version. On the map on the right hand side, you have directions and traffic. So if I click on directions, it's going to ask me, from where I'm at, how do I get there? So that works real quick if I need to go out there for some reason. Or the traffic, what's that like? Nearby for sale pulls just that. So the system will tell me what's close to that property. So it's just like doing another search. If a buyer wants to look at that specific property, that's great. How many times have we gone out? I mean, I know we have, I'm sure some of you have gone out and shown a property, one property, because the buyer says they seen it on Zillow or they seen it on the search you set up for them. They want to go see that one property. Maybe I want to pull up everything else around it as well. And this is one of the faster ways of doing that, especially once we're out there in that area. The arrow at the top will take you back to your previous screen. So you can always use that to go back so that you don't get knocked out of it. You go down through, you look at the facts, all this stuff is the same thing that's in the desktop version. So that's not anything special in that, other than the fact that you have that so you can talk about it, right? You have same thing here. We just like on the desktop version, we can look at if there's any other cells on the property. We can take a look at them, right? We can see all that information. If there is anything, Schools are listed. And by the way, the schools that NAR has in here, I say, you know, NAR, they hired a company. I think it's called Niche Schools. They hired this company specifically to come up with the school setup. So the schools are based on information from the school districts. NAR itself gets updated NAR RPR gets updated every 15 minutes. So if a school district changes anything and that boundaries, for example, that's public information. As soon as that gets published, NAR is going to pick it up. It'll be on here. Because I've had agents say, oh, that's not right. But it's the most accurate information we have available, right?
They also rate the schools?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Wow.
And I've used that on one of my listings. I had a $700,000 listing, which is not my normal market. And when I did the report on RPR, it pulled up a review on the school district that said the teachers in the school district were more concerned about being friends with the kids instead of teaching them. And there were 2 or 3 reviews similar to that. And I showed it to the owner. I said, look, this is one of the problems. You're talking a $700,000 house. If they have kids that are really going to be concerned about the school district, that's going to be a problem for us. And there's nothing we can do about that. That's reviews that are put out on Google and et cetera. Right. So we just need to be aware that it's there and try to work around that. You also have all the legal description, any mortgage information, everything you have on the desktop is available on here. All right. And at the bottom, again, we have reports. You can call the agent, and then you have notes. And this is another one that I actually love. I don't know, John, if you've used this one, but on the note side, I can, if I'm out at a property and a buyer says, I like that property, can go see it tomorrow. I can pull that, like if it was this property, for example, I can pull it up and I can actually type in some notes for that property, right? You know, schedule it for tomorrow at 1 o'clock or whatever it is, right? So I have that. Or I can click on add memo and it goes to the voice, schedule this property for 1 o'clock tomorrow. And now that audio recording will be attached to that property as well. So it's a really handy tool to use. And the other thing is adding a photo. So if I want to take a picture of that property, I can do that as well. So now we have 2 pictures added to that property. Now this, even though this isn't my listing, nobody else is going to see this. This is my information. So then I can go back to the property details if I want to, and all my information is going to be in there. Just even when I get back to the desktop, everything's going to be there for me on that particular property. The other thing that always remember is down in the bottom right is that star. And if you click on that star, you can save this property.
I can just manage.
Yeah, I need to get these eyes checked. There you go.
Is there a way to pull up just active?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. On that search screen, you can do it from there.
Does it say in RPR what the balance of the loan is in the mortgage information, how much they owe?
Not in all cases.
I think I saw it on that one that you were.
It will usually show. Let me stop sharing on this thing. It will usually have some of that information available. So we go back to our main screen, for example, and I'll go to your question here in just a second. You go back to the main screen. Let's say you've walked away and that's one of the questions that came up. I can go down here to the recent and that property is going to be right there. So there's the property that we just looked at, right? It has the star on it and everything. I can go back to that property without a problem and start going back through it. If you look on some of the properties will have what their loan amount was. They'll have what their loan amount was when they bought the property, if that's public information. It doesn't necessarily have the balance. So this one's showing it was an assumption and the loan amount was 210,000. Can you use that information? Anybody?
What was that?
If I look at this financing, for example, and it shows, like in this case, it shows an assumption and that it was a $210,000 loan amount, right? Can I use that information?
Yeah, if you're trying to give them a cash offer for their house, it's good to know.
Absolutely. Thanks, Susan. Yeah, and we have used it because we had a veteran, some of you may have heard this before, but we had a Marine that was wanting to buy a home, and he walks in, we're working with him, and his thing was, I'm going to make a low offer. You know how the buyers sometimes, I want to make a low offer and I want them to pay for my closing costs and whatever that is, and all this stuff. When they actually found a property, my wife asked me to do a CMA on it, and I started going through the numbers. The difference between what their loan amount was and the list price was about 10%, and they had only owned it for about 3 years. So the odds of you doing a low ball and asking them to pay for things too, it's pretty slim, right? So once we actually laid that out for him and showed him this is where we're at, this is what we recommend, our advice and opinions, this is what we recommend, he decided to buy something else. There's no sense in pursuing this. I didn't feel, based on the information that we had. So this can become handy. The other thing is we've used it with an individual where we go in here and look at the numbers and we see that their loan amount was really low. And we look at the sold price and they're asking $100,000, right at $100,000 more than what they bought it for. And they had a real low loan. I mean, I have nothing against anybody making some money off of selling their property, but my job is to represent the buyer. I'm going to try to negotiate that down. Does that make sense? So those things come in, knowing that value and stuff is one of the key tools to this for me personally.
And do all of the properties have that? Because like I'm scrolling through mine and I'm not seeing that on.
They don't, not all of them.
Okay.
It depends on what gets recorded.
Okay.
Because this is all based on public information.
Okay.
And like Cameron County, where I'm at, Cameron County is really slow about some of this stuff. So it takes a while for it to get in there. Hidalgo County over McAllen is really, really quick. The same thing with foreclosures and other things. The one county is faster than the other, easier to work with. So it's the same thing throughout the state and throughout the nation. In fact, that investment family that I was telling you about, when the kids took over, they were down here and I was showing them on my phone. We're sitting at Whataburger, their favorite place, not mine. And we're sitting there and we were talking, I was telling them about RPR and how it could be used and how I love it. And when we're out running around, you'll see me click on my phone, and the reason for it is I'm pulling up the property, et cetera. They asked me to pull up their property in New York. And when I went to pull it up, it didn't show up. It wasn't there. I could not get it to come up at all, based on the address. When they left, I called RPR and says, what's going on? This is pretty embarrassing. And the difference was I had road spelled out and RPR had RD. So it wouldn't come up, right? And when they came back the next time, I actually showed them how that worked and showed them the information we could get. And they're both attorneys up there. And they were like, wait a minute, now you have too much information, because I knew what they paid for the house, but there was no financing. I knew everything about the house, all the history on it. And now you pull it up and there's nothing available, right? So they had that blocked, and it comes from the county, of course, right? I mean, and I shared that with them. That's something they can work on their own. I'm going to go back to a shared screen with this real quick. There's a couple of things on here I wanted to do with it. All right, so on the right-hand side, you also have the 3 dots there. And when you click on the 3 dots, that again gives you the opportunity to do some things that you wanted to do. If you wanted to make that property give that property a custom name, you can do that. You can save it as, I have it already saved, so we'll just leave it at that. You can call the agent, you can add some photos. That's what those 3 dots for. It's just a real quick way to get there instead of having to go to the property and scroll down through it and etc. You have it all right there. There was a question about active properties, and at the top, that's the properties that are for sale. So you decide how you want that set up. But if you have that screen set up this way, so that's everything in our area within a half a mile of where I'm at. That's everything that's on the market right now.
Mac,
Again, yes, ma'am.
is there a way when you're looking at a property, I know like if you're in the MLS, you can flag something that it's not showing up at the proper location. Can you do that through RPR?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No. So the other thing I want to try to do with this real quick is when we're looking at the map, let me go back to one of those properties.
I have a real quick question.
Sure.
You're not able to schedule showings? Like, let's say you're out, showing a property and all of a sudden you see a realtor or somebody putting a sign up in a yard and the buyer says, oh, I want to look at that property right now, or they just saw it or whatever. Are you able to go through showing service from this app, from RPR?
It depends on how it's set up, but most of them just have call the agent. Some of them have access to the showing company. Like we have showing time. In our MLS, we have showing time. So we have showing time set up with our RPR. So you can schedule that through showing time with our properties, but that comes back to your MLS.
Yeah, we have it as well. So is that on a different part of the class or?
Well, let me see. Like on here, for example, it's not showing that this is on there. So if this is part of your MLS, the MLS may not have. They have to be linked together. They have to. I think it's through the IDX feed. I think is the one that actually allows that to go out to them. Because that's something they just added this past year.
So that would be a LaDawn question.
Yes, ma'am. It sure would.
Thank you.
Or back to the board. What I wanted to also do with this is to go to a map view on it. And when you go to the map view on the property, and this is another one that can help sometimes when you're actually trying to do things with the map. So when we talk about distance, for example, I'm sorry, driving time and stuff, that's your map part of it. On the desktop, you can actually do other things with it where you actually have your properties. You can pull up properties by the map. You can pull up how far out it is from there. Like we have a hospital, a major hospital in our area, pretty close. And sometimes the doctors or the nurses will say they want to be within a half a mile or a mile of the hospital. So we can do a real quick search on the mobile for them on RPR. So let's go back here. We're going to go to the search screen. And the other one is that I wanted to show you was the search screen here. You can actually do searches by the name or by APN, the appraisal number as well. On that one. All right. Any questions about any of those items? So here's a new listing. And this is one of the other ways I try to get the agents to use this personally. Here's a new listing. And when I click on it, I open it up. I'm going to create a report for it. I want the property report. Next. Oops, let's go back. and I want it to download. And from there, I can create that report, and it's going to be a PDF version for me, right? Or I can create that and email it to somebody. Again, just like I was talking about earlier with the other property report. How many of you use the property report? Any of you? Yes? Okay. How do you use it?
It was, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, so it was like a mistake almost, but it ended up working out. But I didn't know how to refine anything, and just kind of did it, you know, and I was like, wow. And it worked, but not when something works like that and you don't understand it, it's like, wow, you know, so
Yes, ma'am.
that's why I'm here.
Okay. All right. And John, you said you'd use it as well? The property report?
Yes, I used it for a family member in a different state to see if the house they were looking at was in the ballpark on their pricing.
Right.
So it was very helpful. It was 68 pages in one report.
All right. So the when we talk about the reports on here, when we talk about the reports on here, the property report, the very top one, is a detailed one. You also have the property flyer. And Susie, you said you've used the property report as well?
Yes, to give it to a client I have in Germany.
Okay. All right. So when you guys, if you're giving it to a client you have in Germany, for example, it's a property report, you're sending it to them. It's specifically on that property, correct? So do you do it like a CMA?
Well, it looks like this that you pulled up, right? So I think there are some CMAs that are, I think there are some comps that are included in this, right?
Right. Yeah. And the reason I'm asking is because when you're out and about, that other report, and we'll come back to this one here in a little bit, but they that other report is the property flyer, and the difference between the two of them. This is a detailed report. It's a detailed report, right? And in fact, 27 pages. I think that's what John was getting at. It can be long. And if you haven't, so when you go to do the report, like on a desktop, you can actually choose what's in it and et cetera. So you can make those adjustments here as well. And we'll talk about this report a little later on, but the difference between this one and the flyer, a property flyer, is a one sheet piece. It's just one piece, right? And on that one, we use it a lot for sale by owners and et cetera. So if I see a for sale by owner, I can pull that one up even. And it'll give me all the basic information on that property as well, not the market in general.
But there's also a mini report too that kind of cuts it in half. Is that true?
There is a mini property report. However, if you notice, it's grayed out on this one, right? So when you find the property and you go to do the report, now when you go to do it, you have that available. So the mini property report's there, right? The one I was referring to was the just the property flyer. And I'm going to do that one a little more on the desktop so you can actually see it, because that's extremely beneficial. But I use it here. I use it on the mobile a lot because you see the comments that are in there. So it pulls the comments. This isn't not my listing, but it'll pull. I'm just going to do it. So that one will be created. We can take a look at it later. But what it does is it creates a one sheet flyer. It'll have a little map. It'll have your information on it. and it'll say listed by courtesy of XYZ Realty, that kind of thing, right? And you can pull it up there as well. Again, when I actually pull it up, it won't have all that because I don't have this all set up that way for myself because of the branding issue. But any other questions on this one? Anybody? So again, when you go to do a search, you click on this, click on the magnifying glass, if you will, and that'll bring you back to your search screen if that's what you want. And down at the very bottom is change search defaults, which is where we were at earlier when we went to the profile at the very beginning. So if I need to change something up, I can do that. Okay, so there's the one we just created. That's the property flyer we just created. Presented by, and you pull it, it pulls the MLS comments out of it is what it does with it. And this is the one we use a lot. And down here, you can see where it says courtesy of, right? And we'll use this a lot because that's a prospecting technique. If that property just came on the market, one of the things that we teach agents to do is, even if it's not yours, you have to check with your broker before you do something like this, but even though it's not yours, I can go out and knock on doors and say, hey, look, this property just came on the market, and start my prospecting with them, right? I just came by to let you know this property just came on the market. Do you know anybody that might be interested in buying or selling in this area, etc.? Any other questions on any of those? Pretty quick, like. Oh. Any questions? No. Right. Right. So just to go back, if we could, when we started this, we talked about making sure that you have it set up on your desktop version. And just the last couple minutes here, I'm going to touch base on that real quick. So are all of you going to be back in here for the next one? No? There's a couple of you, no? Okay. All right. So here's all the properties that we just clicked on will show up in here. There it is. Everything we just did is going to be in here. Recent properties we clicked on, the searches, reports, all that, everything will be available. The property flyer we just created was this one. You guys see that okay? Right. And this is what I was talking about. We use it a lot for the prospecting side.
Can you go to the bottom of the flyer and show us a courtesy of?
Can you see that?
Copyright, Harlingen, bedroom, courtesy Keller Williams. Okay, very good.
So as long as I don't say I just listed this, there shouldn't be a problem in my opinion, but always check with your broker. This is one of the things we do, even with builders, even when we go out, because that's one of the big things right now. There's builders are going crazy, at least down here. Homes are going up all over the place. And one of the prospecting techniques is hit that builder up and see what you can do with them. And so to do that, we can create something like this really on the fly. Boom, here we go. I'm here to help you. And if I was your agent, we could get this thing taken care of and use this to show them we know what we're doing and show the tech savvy portion of it, which is what a lot of people want. All right. Any other questions or comments?